Bruins Beat is brought to you by Fanduel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network.
And welcome into the Bruins Beat. It is September 26th. I'm Evan Marinofsky. That's Conor Ryan. Conor, what is up?
Evan, I'm doing well. How you doing?
Doing great. Doing great. We have a game to talk about. How fun is that? That is just what we wanted. That's just what the people wanted, I think, for us to dive into. And it's granted, it is one preseason game. It is preseason game number one. But it's so funny, you know. I think I say this every year. Like, at the end of the playoffs, I always say, man, how do we make it to regular season hockey? Playoffs are just on such a different level. And then the summer goes by, there's no hockey, and then it comes back, and it's like, how do we live without this? Like, I'll take a preseason game any day of the week. Just let me watch some hockey. That's all that matters. So, happy that it's back, and the Bruins obviously get a big 3-0 win. Looked like it was going to head in a different direction. It looked like it was going to be a lot more. Well, there's Broncos-Dolphins out there. But anyway, you know, I see a lot of stuff about this game on Twitter, obviously. And there's a couple of things I think we should set from the jump, right? That was basically an AHL game, right? We can say that. AHL lineups. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. The Rangers showed up at 3:45 for this game, which has it come out like why they were delayed so much? Was it weather, traffic? Like what was
I think
it
was weather. I mean, if you saw the Patriots-Jets game, the weather was kind of shit in New York City for most of the day. So I think it was either taking off late or what have you. Something threw them back just a little bit, which is the reason why. But I think a lot had to do with the weather in New York rather than what was going on up here.
Yeah, so bad weather. They get here late. They got here later than like a youth hockey team. They got there later than the youth hockey teams that I watch and write about get to their games, which is why they had to push back 45 minutes. So I think, you know, got to lay that groundwork there. Brandon Bussi looked pretty damn good. 29 saves, shutout, arguably a save of the year candidate with that freaking glove, which is unbelievable. The Bruins Twitter account nailed it with that. I mean, outstanding in game one. And I think the big takeaway I have, and we can get into what it means more long-term, but you have something in him. That's a legit goaltending prospect.
Yeah, this is the team that you look at their development history, have still kind of struggled to find impact forwards, guys down the middle, but man, they keep on churning out legitimate goalie prospects, right? I mean, and again, this is if you look at some of the ways the Bruins have hit over the years, a lot of it has to do with goaltending, but a lot also comes off of college free agents. And Bussi was a guy that kind of came out of nowhere, had really strong starts there at Western Michigan, more or less willed them to a couple of runs. It was really impressive there. Again, I think Montgomery even is when we said after Sunday's game, kind of came out of nowhere and really established himself. And I think the one friend you hear from everyone that talk about him, whether it's guys in Providence, Montgomery, it's just the compete level, right? Like that's a sequence there where 95% of the time that's an easy goal, right? I mean, I think Brzezinski was literally about to Selly when that shot went off, right?
He was.
Right? Like, and again, it's a credit to Bussi for not just, there's the athleticism involved, is the anticipation, all that stuff, but the compete to, stretch it and make that play and deny that goal. It's impressive. And it's something that, even Mark Diver, who again is the expert on all things, Providence, he's seen all that stuff. Mentioned that I think it was last year in the playoffs against the Hartford Wolfpack, he had almost an identical save to that. So this isn't like an outlier. This isn't I'm to say this guy's going to have a 970 high danger save percentage or anything like that, but he's shown this before. I mean, he's the guy that had over a 920 save percentage last year in Providence, got called up from the ECHL. So it wasn't like this is a guy that signed, was a Mike Richter award winner in college and was, on a destined path to being a number one in the AHL, let alone be an NHL prospect. He's kind of worked his way up for it over a short sample size. And again, it just gives the Bruins extra security. Again, they have the best 1-2 punch in the NHL in terms of their goaltending with Swayman and Ullmark, but also, again, it's hockey. Shit can hit the fan. You might need to call on a guy up in Providence. And to have a guy like Bussi who's only continuing to get better, not only does it give you an extra security blanket this year, but as you look ahead, obviously you're getting down the road a little bit, but it gives you extra insurance in terms of whether if you have to move a goalie down the road, or you have to make some, pretty sizable changes to your roster. Having a guy like Bussi, who's barring a major setback, going to continue to improve and establish himself, that's a great kind of a backup option to have out there.
Yeah, I think Bussi, they should set Vezina odds for him over at our good friends over at Fanduel. If you want to go bet on those, by the way, fanduel.com/Boston, our good friends over there, get $200 in bonus bets for new customers. Yeah, Bussi, I was fascinated by this because, again, I mean, good season last year, interesting prospect. During the offseason when there were the Ullmark trade rumors, a lot of people said, oh, you can go to Swayman Bussi. And, I don't know if Bussi's fully ready yet to take on an NHL season. Obviously, we still don't know that, but you obviously see people on Twitter being like, oh, it's time to trade Ullmark. Ullmark is fully expendable, which isn't the case. I think Bussi can be really freaking good, and you might have something for the future, but you don't have to trade Ullmark now. I think the identity of this team is going to be goaltending and defense. Bussi is certainly a strong goalie prospect. I'm very excited to see what he does in Providence. I bet he'll be really, really good, but I don't think you can base solely off of Sunday night's game. Oh, he's ready to come on up to the NHL level, which I think he's terrific. Like, I think, the rebound control, can use some work, but there was a lot of good. It was 99.9% positive from him. And as you said, like, little Tim Thomas in him at times. Little Tim Thomas in him, which Bruins fans, by the way, when he's jumping around with the leg saves, I feel like, oh, that's our starter of the future. There he is. So yeah, I mean, it's great stuff. But I don't think we're at the point where, time to trade Ullmark. I don't think we're quite there yet.
No, but yeah, again, it's just something to have. If you have that in your backup option down in Providence, it all comes down to depth and how much that flexibility can help you both in the short term with injuries, but again, in the long term, it just gives you options. That's the most important thing as you're this Bruins team trying to retool your roster on the fly. It's all about having options. We talk about that with cap flexibility and having the money to make a trade and take on a contract down the road or what have you. Just having guys down in Providence just gives you the ability to kind of chart your own path, whether it's trade, internal call-up, all that stuff. So just to have a guy like Bussi, who, again, it's not like you're using a critical first or second round pick. Not that the Bruins have that, but it's not like you use that on one of these guys. Like, it's a credit to their scouting staff down in the college ranks, which has hit on quite a few guys over the years to find this guy, sign to a contract, and he's already elevated himself as a top prospect in their system. So it's been impressive.
They're just bringing goalies in like, all right, get in with goalie Bob. Get in with goalie Bob. Just a couple minutes, you're going to be a changed man. It's funny. Like, you look at Vegas's run last year, going their 4th, 5th string goalie in the playoffs. Like, you do need more than just 2 good goalies in your system. I think the other good thing for Bussi this year is it's his net in Providence. Kincaid's not here anymore. So it's going to be just him, and he has all the development time he needs down there. And I don't know, maybe we can pull this in the postseason if things work out this way, but he has kind of the makeup of a guy that would, again, based this off one game, has the makeup of a guy that would just go on like a crazy playoff run. I don't know. I could maybe see it.
Evan Marinofsky declares Brandon Bussi Conn Smythe winner in 2024.
I will. My crystal ball. I'm looking into it right now. I'm seeing it. But yeah, I don't think we're at the level yet to trade one of your starting netminders in Boston. And by the way, I think even if Bussi has, let's say he plays every preseason game and he wins them all, you're still not unseating Swayman or Ullmark. But again, it is strengthening his case to be the team's leading goalie prospect, which I think is a very, very good thing. And it's encouraging that they have that in the pipeline so that maybe next year he is ready, or in years to come, whether that's, again, next year or the year after. Speaking of making hard decisions, or decisions hard on the decision makers, Matthew Poitras, really strong on Sunday night. Now, again, gotta throw water on all this stuff. Gotta, and by the way, we're gonna get to someone later that everyone's down on that I'm gonna, maybe pour a little, no, I was gonna say carrots. I was gonna say like gasoline, but that would just make the fire hotter.
Yeah,
pump it back up a little bit.
You're like the guy, the meme of the guy who has like the air fryer and he's throwing the fries in and it just explodes. That's what you just did. Yeah.
Yes, that's me. All right. Quick second here to tell you about our good friends over at Fanduel. Snap into action this NFL season with Fanduel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Again, that's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining Fanduel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit fanduel.com/Boston and kick off the NFL season. Again, fanduel.com/Boston. Fanduel, the official partner of the NFL. But Poitras, a goal, an assist. I think his IQ is so strong. You just watch him, the way he supports the puck, his play away from the puck. What did you think of his game Sunday night?
Yeah, I thought it was impressive. He's a guy that, again, the same things we've kind of heard about him, the things we've seen on the ice. Is he an elite skater? No. Is he like this guy that's going to have all these highlights in terms of deeks and dangles or anything like that? No, but you see just how he plays, how methodical he is in terms of thinking the play ahead, making the right call. Really good in terms of like his positioning. Obviously, the one thing you worry about with any of these young guys who are facing higher competition is how they deal with the physicality, board battles, those things. I'm going to say that he was, trucking over players or anything like that, but was putting himself in the right position to elude contact. Didn't, shy away from it, but also wasn't putting himself in bad spots where he could easily get separated from the puck. So he thinks the game well. Obviously, a really gifted passer. It was good to see him also get one of the few shots he had going to the net. That's something he has talked about to be a focus on his overall game. Again, this is not going to be a guy that if he hits at the NHL level, he's going to be like a 30-goal guy. He is primarily a playmaker, but good to see him get rewarded for kind of having that extra emphasis on the power play. And yeah, it's all positive in terms of, again, Jim Montgomery more or less mapped it out that he has a big challenge in front of him. Like, it is not, you do not have, even if a guy has a really productive camp at 19 years old, where it's either the NHL or back to junior hockey, usually does not work out in their favor. It's like when you play in NHL, like be a pro, and there's like those rare times you're in camp and you put up like 30 points in the 6 preseason games, and they're like, you did back check that one time, so you
got a C- on defense.
Yes,
you're going back
exactly.
to the AHL kid.
You called for the puck too many times, so yeah. So you are, even though you rifled it into the net. But again, like, he has a tough road ahead of him in terms of, it's one thing to make a good impression and get assigned to Providence and build your game that way and go through the bumps and bruises there. Another thing, if you're up in the NHL, they've committed to you in that spot beyond, I think, that 9-game kind of sample size you have. And then you have to either go back to junior or stick around. Like, that is a tall task for any player, especially one who's 19, has only had 2 full OHL seasons because of COVID, to kind of stick around in that spot. So, I mean, I think it's good on the Bruins for, he opens camp with Pasternak. He opens the preseason with Jameson Reemsdyk and Jake DeBrusk. Like, they're getting his confidence going, and it's easy to spot like his playmaking abilities, his evident talent out there. So it's good to see that they're not starting him in a 4th-line role. They're not putting him in spots where he has to really kind of grind out or change how he plays. And he's building that confidence that way. Again, I think it's quite the ask to have him break camp, even if it is that kind of 9-game sample size that some of these players have. But it's a step in the right direction, right? It's again, he could have 0 points, and we're like, you could have watched that game and be like, yeah, I see the talent, but he's a ways away. You see that with a lot of other really promising guys when they make that next step forward. It didn't see that really that much in that game. So credit to him, and again, credit to the Bruins for taking this really talented young player and putting him in the right spot to succeed early on during camp.
Yeah, I really love his game. I do. I think he makes sense. I think he is a potential, a future top 6 center for them. Like, I loved his game on Sunday night. I thought he did the little things right. Mr. Tenkrat tweeted a zoom in of him in the corners with a nice hit, and to kind of separate as like sort of a support guy. I love that stuff, and I think like he thinks the game at an NHL level. But I had someone tweet at me being like, do you still think it's, he's being rushed, or do you think it's still a rush if you bring him up? I would rather him go to the OHL again. And I think you agree with me on this. Like, There's nothing wrong with that. If he's like, let's say he made the Bruins, right? Let's say he's up in Boston this year. Like, what's he gonna get more development from being, on the third line, centering it and playing 14 minutes a night, 15 minutes a night, or being in the OHL and dominating and being one of the top guys in that league, and then coming into next training camp a year older, stronger, all of those things. Like, I just think, again, if they were rebuilding this year, if they were truly like rebuilding, tearing the whole thing down, maybe it would make sense because you just trial by fire, like get in the top 6, kid, like go do your thing. But I don't think you need to do that. I don't think there's a rush. Now, again, this is one preseason game. If he continues to light it up over the course of, the 8 that are, the 8 that are still coming, it's 8 left, right? Or is there 7 left?
For preseason games, I think there's 5, right? I think there's 6 total.
5. I don't know why I'm thinking there's 8.
Thank God. Like, again, I'm happy the preseason game's back, but also let's keep it like that.
Yes, I thought there were 9 for some reason. Wow. Anyways, for the 5 left, like, even if he's great in those, and I have no doubt that he'll probably be an impact player in most of those, like, it's still not a full season. And I still think time in the OHL, developing down there is valuable. It's funny because he'd be perfect for Providence. Like, he would be perfect for Providence.
That would be like the best case scenario, I think. Like, again, another full year in the OHL, he's going to continue to grow. He's going to put up crazy numbers. The in between there is like the AHL, which again is a whole nother animal. You're going up against guys who are either on the cusp of making the NHL, or you're playing battle hardened 28 to 31-year-old guys who have been around the block and know how to play at that level, play physically. And there's a big learning curve there. So when you look at how good he was last year, I think the Bruins ideally would want to accelerate his path. Like, would you rather him put up 111 points against teenagers in the OHL, or maybe put up 50 points and take some lumps, but also learn along the way in Providence? That probably makes the most sense for a guy that seems to be really accelerating his game, but it is what it is.
It is what it is, as us kids say. Yeah, I'm, I get it. I get the hype. He's good. Like, I'm fully there. Like, you and I are both like, he's really good. Like, you have a legit prospect in him, but I don't think this is the year to rush it. Again, it's development. It's, it's like, is he going to be up in Boston playing all the time as a top 6 center? Feels like Coyle and Zach are going to be it to start. So again, I like the idea of do another year in the O and go into training camp next year as like the most hyped up guy. And I think that's a good way to be. But again, it's one, things can change, but I don't know what would change my opinion on that. He'd have to go off. I don't think that, like, I still don't think training camp is going to change that for me. I still think he's going to be like, a tough send home, but I don't know. I don't think much will change on that route, on that discussion. So I said earlier, we were gonna, Bussi and Poitras were sort of the big storylines from Sunday's game. The one that people were sort of down on, and I didn't really notice him much. Third period, I thought he was okay. Rest of the game, I wasn't super impressed. Fabian Lysell, and I will say, like, in his defense, he played, like Poitras played with Van Riemsdyk and DeBrusk. He played with Harrison and Jason Megna. Like, it is a bit of a difference. It is one game. It's only one game. But I think the inconsistency with him is, we noticed throughout camp. Montgomery's mentioned it. What did you think of his game Sunday?
Yeah, good and bad. I mean, the speed is there. And I think, like, the encouraging thing is, like, he clearly wants to make plays. I don't think he's really passive. I don't think that's the issue with Lysell's game. It's just, I think the split-second judgment, I think, is the thing. They're trying to force plays is what's kind of getting him in trouble. And again, maybe that is different if he's playing with JVR and DeBrusk, or maybe another capable centerman or what have you. Maybe you can kind of unlock more of that, because again, this is the guy that I don't think is necessarily going to be driving play when he cracks the NHL roster. Right, you're gonna have to kind of ferry him along and play into that skill set he has. So I don't think it's a thing about being passive. I mean, there was, I think, one play where he kind of he breaks into the Ranger zone. I think there was like 4 guys back there and kind of went full steam ahead, turns the puck over. Again, it's
like that Simpsons meme of Ralph going through the window.
Yes, exactly. It's like there's no question. He's trying to make things happen. He's trying to play into his speed and his playmaking ability. It's just, again, you have to kind of roll with the punches, take kind of what the game gives you. I think that's something that every young player has to learn in terms of playing to your strengths, knowing how to impact the game, but also sometimes letting the play come to you, right? Like, again, very different player, but it kind of how Trent Frederick was for the first few years, where it's like, all right, I need to make something happen. And I think you kind of realize that rather than going around chasing guys or, putting maybe your team in a bad spot, letting the play come to you, like getting involved after the whistle, playing physically, playing at the net front, those things are how you make a more consistent impact out, I would probably say. And again, that's probably just a learning curve. So again, didn't really showcase too much in terms of more than what we already know about him in terms of his speed and playmaking. But I think it's just one of those hurdles he still has to deal with. And again, it's not to say that it's an indictment on where he is as a player right now in his development, but it's part of, I think, the learning curve for a guy like him. So I'm sure he'll get more preseason reps. We'll see if he gets maybe put with more established NHL talent, and that helps him out. But I think that's kind of the big thing with him. The intent is there, not passive, but it's still, you have to learn how to pick your battles, I guess, a bit more when you get to this level of competition.
Yeah, and just the consistency element of it, I think, is the big thing, bringing it like that every night. It's interesting because, like, with him, the one thing I obviously worry about, can he develop into what they hope he is, which is a top 6, producing winger. But I also think he's probably, I remember at last trade deadline, probably their number 1 trade chip if you really needed to make a deal. Like, he has value down there. I think my biggest worry is you don't want him to lose value in this training camp. And, again, stuff happens all the time with prospects. You saw it with Studnicka. You've seen it with others in the past. Guys have a lot of hype coming in, first-round picks, and, it sort of goes away. And by the way, that hasn't happened with him. That has not happened with him. But I just think it is worrisome. They don't have many prospects or even picks that carry a lot of trade value. He does. So, again, I think, and we kind of mentioned it, like, Providence is going to be good for him again this year. Like, I think that's a really good spot for him to be in, continue to develop, round out the game, make smarter decisions, things like that. But there is part of me that is worried about that trade value. If he, like, my guess is over the next 5 games, he has a few really good ones because, that's how he is. In the event that he didn't, I think that is a little scary of like, oh, that's not what we're looking for. And I think, last or Sunday night's game is an interesting thing of, like, I texted this to you and Ty, like, has Poitras passed Lysell on the depth chart? No, it's 1 game. So I'm not ready to do that, but I think it's an interesting storyline to watch of, could we come out of this training camp saying, all right, the Bruins 2 top prospects, and you can say 3, by the way, you don't have to just do 2, but the 2 top, for the last 2 years have been Lysell, Lowry. Is there a chance we come out of this training camp and say, oh, it's actually Lowry, Poitras?
Yeah, no, I think you look at, that's kind of magnified by also the Bruins' lack of proven center depth, the urgency of trying to find a capable top 6 center that accelerates a bit. Obviously, I think anyone will probably take a top 6 center over top 6 wing in terms of its importance. But I think you've seen it, right? Again, you always have to put these different qualifiers in or expectations when it comes to a guy making the jump from junior hockey to the AHL. Look at, I think if you look at just the OHL numbers, people thought Jack Studnicka was going to be a lock middle 6 center, and just hasn't worked out for him. So it's one thing where you have the time and space and the playmaking ability to do that stuff and rack up points against guys that are 17, 18. Another thing, again, when you go up to the AHL or the NHL eventually, and you face that level of competition. The one thing all these guys talk about, everyone always mentions the physicality, the puck battles, all that stuff, but both Poitras and Johnny Beecher mentioned just the speed. Like, again, as much as these guys want to play fast, kids coming up to the pro hockey now are more skilled than ever. Still, when you're playing against pro hockey and just the pace you have to operate with to make those split-second decisions, try not to give away that costly turnover stuff that cuts into your ice time. It's tough. It's the reason why this game is so friggin' hard. So, again, you view Poitras, he's right up there right now, I think, with Lysell in terms of his, high-end talent. Let's see what happens when he makes that next step, right? Like, if he goes to the OHL and he puts up again, 120 points. I think it further validates that they've got a very promising prospect, but I don't think you'll be able to make that next step in terms of this guy really knocking on the door unless he either breaks camp with the Bruins, which we'll see, or he makes that next jump to the AHL, and all of a sudden he's a point per game guy there. That's when I think you realize you really have something.
Yeah, I agree. It's too early to make that jump, or to make that, Poitras has jumped Lysell, but I just think overall, I guess it's a good problem to have, but
Yes.
Again, I think that Poitras has sort of worked his way definitely into the upper echelon of Bruins prospects if he wasn't there already. Beecher, by the way, a nice goal on Sunday. Continued to sort of. What did you think of Beecher's game on Sunday and what he brought? Because I know we've kind of highlighted him for the fourth line. What did you think of his game?
Yeah, I thought he was really solid, actually. I think obviously the goal is the important thing. You want to see that offensive production. It's kind of the one thing that's kind of been a knock against him. Not to say that he's going to be a guy that gives you 30 points or what have you, but just to show that he can contribute offensively is encouraging. But I think you look at the rest of how he played. That speed is evident. We mention that every single time with him, but I think he was 7 of 11 on faceoffs, which again, if you want to carve out a spot, you got to do that, especially for that fourth line center spot.
It's a big one.
Was really active on the forecheck, was in on pucks, separated guys from the puck, just does all those little things. I think those are what's going to carve out the path for him to stick in the NHL, right? It's the faceoffs, being responsible defensively, being effective on the forecheck. And again, we talked last week about how intriguing a Lucic, Beecher, Lauko line could be. And he's doing those little things there. Again, if you bring him to the NHL and all of a sudden he unlocks a little more and gives you 25, 30 points, fantastic. But he's a guy that if you give him 75 games and he gives you 16 points, but he's good on faceoffs, kills penalties, is effective on the forecheck, and plays into what that line is trying to do, you absolutely take that. And I think you look right now, that fourth line spot, especially down the middle, is up for grabs right now, right? Like Patrick Brown's in that mix. Well, got banged up in this game against the Rangers, which is a tough hit for him. But I don't believe he's out long term or anything. But still, you look at what the other competition is, like it's right there for Beecher if he just plays his game. He doesn't have to do anything too flashy. Don't make turnovers. Don't try to do too much with the puck. But when he's playing his game, his feet are moving, he can be really effective into what the role the Bruins are hoping he can seize out of camp.
Yeah, I liked his game Sunday. You nailed it with the do little things right, and you'll have the fourth line center spot. Were there any other thoughts you had? Any other players that jumped out at you? I'll offer one up. Michael Callahan on D. I thought he was strong. Again, didn't really have to notice him much as long as he just did his job. I think, again, like Bruins have 6 set NHL D, but for the 7th defenseman, they don't really have a defined one. I mean, Zaboral makes the most sense. He's been there the longest, but like, if you can, there's going to be injuries at the NHL level. If you can stick Callahan in there for a game or two, or for, a longer term amount of time, I think, there's a potential there for him to hold his own. I'm curious if there's anyone else that you thought was interesting on Sunday.
Yeah, I thought Callahan was really good. I thought Riley Walsh was also pretty solid with him as well. I think he's a guy that'll be in the mix.
The broadcast mentioned Framingham Mass native, and I was like, if only, not quite.
If only. But I thought he was good. I think Anthony Richards, a guy that keep tabs on. I don't know if he's going to elevate to be a surprise, NHL guy out of camp at least, but I think he's a guy that's probably going to be called on quite a bit if there's injuries. Really productive player in the AHL over the years. I think he's 26. Last year played with Laval, and I think he had 30 goals, 67 points in 60 games, something around that. Almost a point per game guy. So at the very least, he's going to be an impact player for Providence, which you need at that level of a guy that can be a steady contributor as you have these younger guys kind of work on their own games and kind of you pull them along. So I think he's going to be key in terms of just the overall makeup of this team. But I thought he really popped in the ozone, almost had that goal against Jonathan Quick where the backhand just, I think, went off the post, I believe. But he's a guy that I think should be in the mix. I'm sure you'll see him a few more preseason games here, but guy that I would not be surprised gets a few games up the NHL throughout kind of the twists and turns that come with an 82-game season.
I agree with you. And I liked Riley Walsh. He was solid. I don't know if he's going to be an NHL regular, but I think, there's potential to slot in here and there when they need him. So it was an interesting game. Game 1. Yep. Game 1. There's another one tonight in Buffalo. So there is that. We will be watching and seeing who pops and who doesn't, and stocks going up and down. I actually, what's funny, and I guess I wasn't really watching him that closely because it's preseason. So for a guy like Trent Frederick, I don't really watch it that closely for a guy like him. But he had some good little puck plays. To Richard, that breakaway he had was just a nice little play by Frederick in the neutral zone, and then Frederick had some other nice little puck plays in the O zone and stuff. So I was like, oh, all right, that's something. I'm not going to read too into it because, again, I want to see that at the NHL level more often with him. But encouraging stuff. And Riemsdyk was out there, pretty solid. And I loved seeing UMass's Zach Jones on the back end for New York. That was what I cared about most. That was my eyes were on him the whole time. I couldn't help it. But anyways, Connor, what can people look forward to from you over at Boston.com and the Boston Globe?
Yeah, we'll have you covered throughout this preseason training camp with daily updates, breakdowns, takeaways after these preseason games, all that good stuff. So read all of it over at Boston.com. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can at ConorRyan_93.
Go do all that. And remember, we're sponsored by good friends over at FanDuel. That's Conor Ryan. I'm Evan Marinofsky. You Bruins Beat listeners, have a great rest of your week.